Hello everybody, Average Gamer here. Welcome to a very special video. So recently on Twitter, YouTube, I think Facebook, Discord, and on the forums, I think guys from Battlegoat have announced Superpower 2 has reached, or Superpower Next Gen has reached paper and pen stage. Maybe paper and pen stage? We'll go with paper and pen stage. And they've reached out to everyone and said, hey, what do you want to see in the next Supreme Ruler? And I realized that there's not enough space on Discord for me to type all the things that I think, or I would like, should be in the next Supreme Ruler game. Now, I'm not going to include things like a new engine and 64-bit support, new graphics, etc., etc. You know, better performance, because to me, those are just given. The current engine in Supreme Ruler, in both Ultimate and the Great War, because Great War was the last one to come out. It's what, 15, 20 years now, 20 years old now, 16, 17 years old. It's an old engine. So obviously new engine, new blah, blah, blah stuff, technical stuff in the background. So that's obviously going to happen. What I want to talk about today is things that I think would make what we're just going to call Superpower NG or Superpower 2. That game. So first things first, the ability to hire and fire your own ministers. I want to be able, at the beginning of my game, to select my country, and it will say, this is the leader of the country, here's all the ministers. So you pick a country, and you load up the game. And by the way, thank you, Battlegoat, for letting us delete save games on the menu. I've been wanting that for so long. Anyways, so, you have no idea. So, you load up the game, loads into the map, and you get immediately, here's your president, prime minister, presentator, king, queen, whatever float your boat, queen, king clown, whatever, king carrot, whatever your leader is of the country. It says, here's your leader, here's all the departments. So you have to immediately pick people that have both flaws and bonuses in all the different departments. So your Minister of Agriculture, your Minister of, and these ministers actually have purposes. So your Minister of Internal Affairs. So the guy who runs, your police force, your healthcare system, your fire department, things like that. The Minister of, social welfare, the person who basically deals with, your homeless, your taxes, your Canada Revenue Agency / Internal Revenue Agency, or whatever it is in your nation that deals with tax collection. Your Minister of Defense, your Minister of your Foreign Affairs, the head of your intelligence agency, the head of your Navy, you're the head of your Air Force, the head of your Army. Be able to actually set aside a good 8 or 9 different people that you need to hire. And everyone has, 5 people that are RNG that you get to pick as your minister of blank, minister of whatever. Then below those people, they just automatically come with a complete RNG staff of just people. None of them really have, they'll have RNG stats, but you just get a person and then everything else is RNG underneath. And then those people then have stats for what they specifically. So for the Minister of the Interior, you'll have the head of the police union, or the head of the police, the head of your healthcare, the head of your, the Minister of Mining and Resources, Minister of Industrial Production, etc., etc., etc. And all of them come with bonuses, positive, negatives, and you can hire someone else and fire them, whatever. Then you also have ministers. So for example, premiers in Ontario, or the person who runs a province, have that in the game as well, where I can click on a specific territory, so the battle zone, click, and go into the battle zone and tell that minister, hey, do me a favor, can you build more, more social services in your territory? Can you build more infrastructure, more resource extraction, whatever? There you go. I wouldn't mind having that. For the Minister of Defense, you have the ability to tell them, hey, Build a military base, an army base in the following region somewhere. Build a naval base somewhere along this region. Build an air force base over somewhere in this region. And they'll pick the best spot available or a spot they think is available, and they'll build it. Also that stuff, like I mentioned, the minister of your central intelligence agency, or the minister of spying or whatever, have the ability to hire spies. And have a spy, for example, that you hire a spy and tell them to go to North America, just North America in general. And that person then has a bunch of different little separate orders. Set up a spy ring. So that way you don't have to sit there and hire 30 or 40 different spies for one country. It's just hire a spy, send him over to North America, if you want to, multiple spies, but have it so that you can send a spy to a country and it can build up a spy network in that country. So you don't have to worry about sending multiple spies to one to Chicago, one to Miami, one to New York, one to DC, one to Los Angeles, and one to San Francisco. You just send one master spy to one area and they just build up the network themselves. They hire whoever they need to themselves. It doesn't show you, it'll just show you how much it costs. And then you can tell that spy to do certain actions, whether it's influence an election a certain way, whether it's influence the construction of something, where, if the minister in one state is, if, say, a country is really, really low on, say, food, but really high in resources, but you are selling them a lot of food, you obviously don't want that country building food. So if you had a spy in that country, you can say and dissuade that nation from building food. Dissuade from building and have it set up so it's like, something about, because I know it's in here as one of the ministers. Here you go. Export opportunities and import opportunities. So you can tell your spy, do me a favor, and I want you to dissuade country B from export opportunities. Meaning, I want them to basically buy more things from everyone else. So I want you to basically have to buy more stuff and basically import more things, or basically influence imports and dissuade exports type thing. Sabotage facilities, steal plans, etc., etc. That'd be a good way for spies. Diplomats, same thing. Be able to send diplomats have a diplomat in the UN, have a diplomat for every general area in the world, with both positive and negative influences, where you can tell that diplomat, hey, I want you to, in the region of Africa, I want you to build up my influence. So take people out for dinner, talk to people, get me also intelligence, so I can then give to my spy. So you'll say, hey, I spoke to an ambassador in Togo. He told me that, they're really, they're having issues with low agriculture production. That's told to the spy. The spy then is like, hey, let's sabotage some of that agriculture. And then you get a little pop-up saying, hey, Togo is having issues with agriculture. There's an opportunity here to sell them agriculture. And there you go. When it comes to your ministers, your provincial and all that stuff, have, like I said, the positive and negative impacts of all of them. For your healthcare and all that stuff, same thing. You can tell, the minister of health, hey, I want you to do the following in research. I want you to look at cancer research. I want you to look at AIDS research. I want you to look at cloning, all that stuff. And also with our internal minister. So the ministry, our minister of natural resources. Tell that guy, hey, I want you to spend money on research at your national research laboratory to look at making mines more efficient, or making, making raw goods better, either extracting them more or just being more efficient at the amount and how you're producing. So cost less, produce more type thing. With your military, have it so that instead of having thousands of units in a database, there are no units in a database. Meaning every country makes its own units. So for example, you tell your Minister of Defense or your Minister of the Army, hey, I want you to research for me armor personnel carriers. But specifically, you have the ability to research, say, 5 things on almost all your ground units. So for ground units, you have tanks, armor personnel carriers, artillery, infantry, anti-air. I don't think I'm missing anything. And then for each of those, it's broken down. So for example, for artillery, it would be range, armor, mobility, and we'll just say for ammunition. So you can actually research all the different things and basically just say in your next unit, I want this next unit to just kind of generally, you basically be able to kind of scrap together a model where there's like just a big list of here's what hulls look like for artillery, here's what the turret looks like for artillery, put A and B together, and then maybe add wheels or tracks or whatever. So you have to pick what the artillery looks like, but also what its stats are. So for the artillery, say we research, we max out 1 to 10, we get them level 10 of range, and then we get reload speeds up to out of 1 to 10, we get it up to 3. Armor is at a 1, but mobility is at a 9. So our artillery is very mobile, can fire very fast, and hit very far. And we can produce it as we do regularly and just say, this is artillery number 1, or this is our Oda artillery 1. And just, design it on our own, set it up on our own, and do something like that. I think that would be very interesting. Have it with aircraft, research stealth and research engines, aerodynamics for speed, maneuverability, payload, have aircraft broken down into multiple different areas. So like for helicopters, have utility, scout, anti-submarine, or even, for helicopters have just simple attack, scout, and utility. For ships, just have aircraft carriers, capital ships, escort ships, and coastal ships, and then support ships. And you can actually just research certain things there. It's pretty simple in my eyes, where you just tell it, hey, I want a vehicle to have level 2 this, 3 this, 4 this, 8 this, 6 this, and 2 this. Because it's just on a bar graph that goes left to right for you and just fills up the boxes. Best way example is this is Superpower 2. Their research, in my eyes, is perfect. It's simple. You see what you're getting, and you can just tell it what you want, and then you just pick what on the generic parts list of what you want it to look like. So what it looks like may not be reflective of what the stats are, but it's pretty easy. And then you get some crazy looking units all around the world. Research for everything else is all based on a dollar value, and you get research for stuff. So for example, if you research pharmaceuticals, you can actually tell overall generally what to research. So you can tell your Ministry of the Interior, hey, I want you to research this with healthcare. Spend this much money on these following things. And it'll show you just a bar graph like it is now. And it'll just say, hey, when this is filled up, you'll have AIDS research, and they'll also have different projects for you to research. And all the different projects in the health department will be basically just things that are obviously good for people's health. But it'll show you, this will make people happier. This will increase your costs for consumer goods. But that's because your cost of people going into the hospitals are less because people are now taking Advil and polysporin and things like that. For your industry, you're researching, better tools, better equipment. So people are now basically taking stuff out of the ground faster, cutting down trees quicker, pumping oil out of the ground quicker. And it'll just show you, it'll be like, hey, on our next efficiency that you're spending money on, when this ticks over, we're going to get an efficiency of +2 to all our, extraction. And then when it pops up again, it'll be like, hey, so it'll just start spending money, and it'll just be the same research over and over and over, right? And it'll just be generic research. So you're always getting boosts and buffs and modifications to what's going on. I think that would be a good idea. Generals. So this is a little different. What I like is the building system and deployment system of Supreme Ruler Ultimate and the Great War. But I also like the general system. in Hearts of Iron, where you put everyone under a general, and the general can then order things and order things through. Because basically, there's two things in this game, right? There's diplomacy, and there's research and warfare. And once you get to a certain level of research, you go to war with everyone and you conquer them. So obviously having a good system where you don't have to micromanage too much. You can order certain units to go certain ways if you want to, just like you can in Hearts of Iron and all the other games. But you can also just leave everything under a specific general and he'll follow a specifically ordered order of battle. You can tell them, hey, I want you to push up this road, go to this line here, and not go any further. I want you to bring these units and bring them up this way. These units over here are going to go this way. It could be a good idea. Kind of like a upgraded and modernized version of the Hearts of Iron 4 system. Because we already know the hexes. So the AI just needs to know how many units to put along the hex. And it just needs to know, okay, if I'm going here, this is where each unit is going to go in the hex. And you can actually even tell it. It'll even say, like, I am 80% of the way through processing this plan. And if you hover over, say, the arrow, it will show you where every unit thinks it's going at the moment. So you can actually see holes in your battle plan. And it will tell you, hey, we're not ready yet. Like, we're actually thinking about this over time. And actually have the AI, the general, go, okay, well, here's a road, and here's a road. So these are going to be fast. So I'm going to put a lot of armor and quick moving units here. There's some forest down here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put a lot more infantry units down here and over here because we don't have to go as far, and really smartly kind of place your troops around. And also depending on the order too. If I tell it just to blitz into a country, it's going to put mostly fast reacting units and it's just going to blow through everything and just basically bypass towns and just hit enemy units, but just try to keep going past them to override them. Air forces, same thing. Just be able to order my overall air force just to be like, hey, get air superiority over here. Bomb units, do interdiction. I want you to bomb facilities and things like that, but also be able to like tell, B2 to fire a missile and hit, an air base if I want to. But at the same time, basically to also telling the minister, hey, if you get this much damage to units, pull a unit out of rotation and let it repair, which would be cool. And then you can also, as you're building your units, as you do in the game, you can actually say, hey, I want to add an additional, infantry battalion to General A. I want to add another strike aircraft to Air Marshal A. And kind of do that. With the Navy, I kind of, in this case, it's actually more simplified. A la Hearts of Iron, where you get the whole world's waters basically sliced into hundreds of pieces, thousands of pieces, and you just order the fleets to do generic things in the fleet in those areas, where basically the Navy will do overall things. Now, that's more of an AI thing. Hearts of Supreme Ruler Ultimate has always had an issue with its naval AI. This is the only thing I can think of that can do something other than that, and it's also a lot simpler too. I think the Navy would be the most complicated thing warfare-wise because how much water there is. There's more water than land, right? So it'd be just slice things up into the world, and just you can be able to then hire your admirals, prioritize your fleets under your admiral. So have first fleet under Admiral A, second fleet under Admiral B, etc., etc., etc. And within that fleet, have battle groups, strike groups, anti-submarine warfare groups, surface action groups, attack, convoy raiding groups, etc., etc., etc. And then be able to order them to do general things in this area, and you just see them just saying, hey, we're here, this is what we're doing. When they actually go to fight, you actually can click on it and actually do the fighting like you would be able to do with regular units. You just do it on a little area like, the size of that. You don't see much, the battle just pops up. Number 2 is that being able to actually fight the battles yourself. Like when units actually hit each other, I want to be able to sit there and order units on a smaller map. Like if I'm entering this town here with my units, I would love to be able to order my units in that town to do certain actions, do certain things. You can either say, hey, ignore this or do it. But when your units actually are attacking each other, it pauses the world around you, or at least slows the overall world down, and you can actually sit there and actually take action on this battle. Like it will zoom into like an area like this. It will be a little bit more strategic, a little bit more specific. Like have a lot of this disappear and actually be able to fight the battle. With that in mind, also having the ability to have influence. So big battles and important battles influence your, how people look at you, like your government and things like that. Have refugees moving from one town to another and, bomb them by accident because it'll just show you a target. Having just simple blue, green, and red on a map. So, for example, all our units are green, all our allies are blue, and all the bad guys are red. But we don't know who the bad guys are until we actually research, or until we actually see them and identify them. So there's chances of hitting civilians as they're trying to exit a town or a city, trying to get away and create like a random, a random refugee camp on the map. Things like that. I would love to have more abilities like that, which also bring into more diplomatic stuff, like being able to diplo-annex nations. Like I should be able to lean basically on Ghana, Togo, and Benin here, and even do a little bit Liberia, and just basically keep influencing them and doing all the things I can to them to make them like me so much that I can turn around and be like, hey, here's the deal. Do you want to be my protectorate? I can protect you. But you have to be part of my nation. You'll be a protectorate, you'll be a territory outside of my nation. So you won't be annexed, but you will be a puppet. And have them say yes or no. But basically they're being your vassal. There you go. I've already mentioned manufacturing. That's all I can think of right now off the top of my head, to be honest with you. With that in mind, thanks for watching, everybody, and listening to me rant and rave and speculate and postulate about ideas that I would like to see. Guarantee you this might change in the future. Guarantee you it might not. I can guarantee you one thing. I can't guarantee anything. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.